Great, thanks. Hi. So first, I want to talk about cybersecurity because you know it, attacks are happening constantly. I really like this map, so I don't have the internet. I don't know why, so I can't really show you. But there is this website. Oh, it's working, so maybe I have the internet. I love this map. It's a map of all current attack in the world, and you can see countries, what the type of attacks, the ranking in the countries most attacked, and why. And look, so you can't really know why it's following you, but you can guess why, if there are events, everything, and it helps you get a feeling of the cybersecurity currently at the moment, what's happening, what are the current threats. And I especially used it for the Olympic Games in France because I'm a French person and I'm French, and I worked with company who are really sensible about cybersecurity because we knew it could be a higher risk during the Olympics because media were every media in the world were looking at France, how it worked, if there were an attack and everything. So I'm Marine du Mesnil. I'm from a developer background. I'm now a technical leader in a team, a cybersecurity expert, and I'm a member of the OWASP chapter France. And I think it's really important to keep this connection with the developers. So to do security with them during their time, during their coding, it's also really important to automate especially in their environments in the IDE. And we'll see how we can do this. And security is fun. It can be challenging, of course, but it's fun, and it can simplify users' lives. And it's our goal. Like, for example, password managers, they help people. They don't need to remember lots of passwords. If there is a compromission, sometimes your password manager can tell you, this password is not safe anymore. If there is a phishing attack and you arrive on a website with a small typo in the URL, you might not detect it, but the password manager will detect it. So it's like many things that improves users' lives with a cybersecurity tool. And I think like many of our tools, the tools we developed, we sell, and we use in our daily life, this is what we want them to do, to simplify lives and improve the cybersecurity. So at Theodo, we develop web application and work for various companies. And so we want to also create a secure code. So this is what I do with my team, is to help them develop more secure code for those clients. So first, let's talk about the fact that we ignore vulnerabilities. And there are flaws, there are vulnerabilities in web application, in app we use and we develop, and they are often ignored. There was a study in 2020 that said that 50% of web applications have a critical flaw. That was a study in the US, but it can be also applied, I think, in Europe. And there are various studies. I saw a study in 2021 that said 30%, another one 50%, and 25%. It really depends on who's conducting the study, but still we have critical flows in many applications. And here critical flow means access to personal information or code execution on the server. So they are ignored. What does it mean ignored? It means sometimes we don't know they exist. Okay, we haven't done anything to look at the code, look at the server, and we don't even know there is a flow. It happens people, some developer, they don't know about cybersecurity. It's a really vast world, so not really easy. But also, I saw a team where they know there is a vulnerability, but they don't fix it. They ignore it. It's written somewhere in the backlog, and that's all. There were a pen test, and the pen tester said, okay, you have this flow. It's really important. You have to fix it, but it's not fixed. And it really depends why. We will see why, but it really depends the reason, but they are ignored. So what are the reasons? Why are these vulnerabilities ignored? Do you have any ideas? Or like in your teams? Yeah.
Money/project timelines.
Okay, yeah, project timelines.
CISO accepts the risk.
Okay, accept the risk. It really depends. Sometimes it's a good idea, but most of the time the CISO is not the one accepting the risk.
It's the business.
But yeah.
Business accepts, business risk.
Exactly. Yeah.
Targets.
Okay. Yeah.
Optimism.
Yeah, optimism. We saw about the bias before.
Optimism.
Oh yeah, optimism.
This feeling of pride in my own work, a vulnerability in my product.
Yeah, you ignore it. We saw it like this morning, and you may sometimes, I don't know if you went to this camera talk, but sometimes you tell someone there is an issue, but they don't want to listen to it. Yeah.
Prioritizing keeping the effort
Yeah.
in when there might be a complex fix.
Yeah, obviously. So those are great reasons. So I categorize them in three categories. So the first one is it's complex. We don't always know what to do. Like a really simple application, you have like the front end, back end, maybe some dependencies, a database. Already, like in this really, really simple application, you can have vulnerabilities everywhere. And so it's really hard to track all of them. In like dependencies, you have 50 new CVE per day. So CVE is common vulnerability exposures. It's the vulnerabilities that can impact many people, and those vulnerabilities can be on a dependency you use. It can be on a computer. It can be on the server. It can be everywhere. So it's really hard to do, like, to get all those vulnerabilities. Sometimes developers don't know about the risks or the best practices, so it doesn't help them fix it. There is also responsibility and ownership. The lack of ownership in the team. I really like this sentence, and I always tell it to my teams, where everyone is responsible. No one is really responsible, because when you have like the pen testers giving you the report and saying, okay, you have 5 vulnerabilities, there is one you need to fix this week, and maybe like 2 in the next month, everything, and then like the project owner maybe will say, okay, we'll fix it. Or someone in the team say, we'll fix it. But then no one is taking the ownership. So I think you've been all to meetings where we talk about an issue, and then at the end we say, okay, we'll do something. And then nothing happens. And then the next week, the next month, maybe the next year, you'll talk about the same thing and nothing will have changed. So it's really important to have someone take the ownership. It shouldn't have to be like the most cybersecurity expert all the time, because it can be just someone who wants to learn about cybersecurity, or someone who feel responsible for the project and they will ask other people. They will ask the cybersecurity team. They will ask the architect of the project to find the best way to fix it. Or it can be also the project people, the business people. They can be the owners, but they need to follow and ask people to fix it. So yeah, we talk also about prioritization, about delivery pressure. It's things that put this fix at the end of the roadmap, and it's never fixed. And this is why we need someone to talk about it all the time and feel the ownership of the vulnerability. And the last thing, it's the impact. It's not immediate. You don't know when it will happen. You don't know when, not if. I hear a lot, if it happens, if someone will attack us. No, it's when. Because there are attackers, there are hackers that have automation. They automate. They have bots scanning the web, scanning all the apps, and they improve their bots. They improve their tools. One day, your application, if you don't fix it, will be the one that will pop something on their screen and they will try to attack you. So it's really important to think it's not if, it's when. You tell this to your teams. It's not if, it's when. And if we look at the vulnerability, maybe we find only a bug. In fact, a vulnerability is a bug. It's a defect. It's a mistake in our computer program. So we can just take it in the flow just as a bug. And we can accept the risk, for example, just as a bug. Sometimes you have a design bug and you say, okay, it doesn't matter. We don't need it. Sometimes you have a vulnerability and you think it won't have great impacts, and you can say, okay, maybe it will have an impact on defacing our website, and our website is not critical, so it's okay. We don't need it, but we need to think about it. There are still differences with the bugs. Your users won't tell it, won't call you. There is an issue with security in your application. Sometimes ethical hacker will do it. You might have to pay, but it can be a great thing to have this. But most of the time, it won't be ethical hacker. It will be after they stole something, or after they get your data. So it's really you should detect before them. It's also really hard to measure the impact, and it might be complex to fix. So let's take a real example. For example, the OWASP Top 10. So the OWASP is Open Worldwide Application Security Project. I think many of you know it. It's a really well-known project, and they give this top 10 of the most impact flows on the impactful flows on websites. And in 2021, the last top 10, they said it's broken access control. So if I look at one of my application and I want to check broken access control, it's really hard because in my application, maybe I have 300 endpoints. So I don't know what to do. I don't know all the business rules. So what to do with that? So we must automate. If you feel safe about your security without automation, then you're just in a fire without any fire alarm, because you don't know what's happening around you. There are great tools that exist on the internet. I have small example, but there are many others. So SamGrep, I really like this tool, and I use it with my team. You can try it. You just create an account and then launch it on one of your code base. So I've done it with JuiceShop. JuiceShop, it's a project from the OWASP. It's a vulnerable application with many vulnerabilities. So if I launch it, I can see many issues, and I can see what are the issues. So for example, I can check. I don't know if my internet works No, not really. So maybe I can't show you. I'm sorry. So if I do this, I'm just going to unskip the slides because I've prepared something just in case. So it can find like classic vulnerabilities. Of course, it's a vulnerable application. So for example, here we have an SQL injection, and it can show like the code, the exact line, and some cheat sheet and useful documentation on the OWASP or on other websites documentation to help correct the vulnerability and understand what happens. Okay. So yeah, that's what I showed you. So it's better. We now have some vulnerabilities, but there are still false positives, and the business flows, so the broken access control, is not detected. We don't know if a user can do this action or not. So it's better, but still we can make progress. So I want to present a tool, which is QRQC, and how we can learn from our flows to avoid repeating them. So QRQC, it comes from the lean methodology. It's from Toyota and the Toyota industries. And the goal of this tool is to understand the vulnerability or the bug and find the best countermeasures for this bug. So to do it, we need to go to the real place where the flows happened. So where the vulnerabilities was, it could be like the environment, the server, it could be on the computer of the developers who wrote the vulnerability. We then want to see the defect, really the real thing, like not all the best code. We want the team to show what line where the vulnerability was introduced. So it could be the code, it could be the configuration, everything, but we need to see what introduced the bug. And then real data, like the number of defects on the code, if it was exploited, see the logs, everything. So we'll see a better, like an example after. So QRQC, what does it mean? It's quick response quality control. So we have a few steps. So we detect the problem, we identify what it is, for example, a vulnerability in our application in the code. We characterize it, we secure it. Of course, the first thing we should do is at least mitigate the flow, do a quick fix. Then we will analyze the root causes, implement the long-term fix, and capitalize. So it's we've found a vulnerability, we secured it. Now we need to teach the other team and tell the story to team so they don't reproduce it. And it works for companies in the industrial world. For example, Safran, which is a French company in aviation, they introduced QRQC in 2011, and they improved their delivery time by 15% annually, and improved their product quality by 10%. And another company, they reached 0 defects on some of their sites after a few years of using QRQC. And to do that, to do this QRQC, we need to study the system states and to find the flows with all the aspects of the application. Because as cybersecurity experts, we might not know all the code, and even some developers, they don't know all the codes. So we need people who knows part of the code that was written where the flow was written. We need the cybersecurity knowledge to know the impact, to know how to correct it. And we need the business knowledge to know that we are not adding a regression, or that we are really fixing a vulnerability and not something that was designed by the company because they want to, I don't know, maybe everyone can have access to this page or any business knowledge we need. So QRQC, we have this template at my company that we use. There are other templates on the internet, for example, but it's to help think about the defect. And so we think about two analyses, two root cause analysis. It's why it was introduced, why it was written, how the developer added this code, and why it wasn't detected. Because if we write a vulnerable code, it's okay if we detect it before production. If we detect it in the tests, for example, then we're safe. So it's two things that we need to think about. So let's see for an example. I'll zoom in the different section. So first, the defect. We describe it through the user point of view. So here, for example, on an application I saw, we had this vulnerability where the function to modify an account was accessible by everyone. We didn't even need to be authenticated to modify an account. So now we look at the code, the real place where the vulnerability is happening. So here, for example, so it's Java code. We don't really care if we know this code or not, but what's important is there should have been an access control annotation, and it's not there. And we can see that the function, the update user function, it's accessible for everyone. So we can write the defect description here to see there is a missing annotation. Okay, so then why? Why is there a missing annotation? In fact, what happened, so we talked to the developer who introduced the flow. What happened? They copied and pasted the account creation function. And obviously the account creation, because everyone can create an account on this website, there is no access control. And so they didn't think about it. And what we could do, like a countermeasure, is to add an explicit annotation to every endpoint. Then we will think about it. So this is what the technical leader of the team did. They went through every endpoint and added this prioritize permit all, which means that next time when someone will copy and paste a function and then to create an endpoint, then maybe the one reading the code will see prioritize permit all and will think about the access control, or the one who will copy and paste the code will think about it. It's some little warning to help developers code a better code. There is also the fact that the project owner, in this case, didn't specify the needed permissions for this route, for this endpoint. For example, we don't know if, can I update my own account, or only an admin can update an account? Is there some business rules on the account? Like, can I update my email? Can I update my phone number? Everything. So this is also a great tool to share with the team what happened, and to train, for example, the business people, to train them in cybersecurity and to help them understand the basics of cybersecurity. Then we analyze what could have prevented the default to be deployed in production. So, for example, in our case, the developer, Mary, she didn't write a test. So now she adds a test. She added a test for an unauthenticated user. So it's a better practice to add this test. Okay, that's great for this case, but it doesn't prevent a new developer to introduce the same flow next time. We also thought about how we could control all the endpoints and make sure that the access control is checked. For example, in the CI, so the automated flow after the code before it's merged in production. And so the technical leader added a generic test to verify that there is always a pre-authorized annotation on controllers. Now, if someone writes an endpoint without the pre-authorized, it will fail. So this is the test that was added by the technical leader. And it only verify that there is this pre-authorized annotation. And this test, I talked to the team, this test, it failed 3 times since it was added. So we prevented 3 different flows to be introduced in production. In fact, the 3 times, one of them was a public route, public access, so it was okay. But 2 times, we prevented developer to write code that would have led to broken access control in production. And it's a really basic protection. So, okay, we saw an example, and we do that on all flows in our application to try to prevent flows that we encounter to happen again. So we have, like, on one of the projects I saw, there were like 400 endpoints on a single API, so I couldn't go through them, obviously. And so we checked that there were this pre-authorized everywhere, but it's not enough to check if there is no broken access control. For example, someone could have written permit all, and then it's accessible to everyone. But the business people who have the knowledge about like who should have access to which function, to which button, which action, they can't go through the code and check everything. So with this tool, we have a list with any endpoint and the associated pre-authorized, and we go through this with the business people. So the endpoints, most of the time, it's easy to read, or at least with a tech person and a business person, we can understand it, and we can see if the pre-authorized is the right one. For example, should a user search all clients? Maybe yes, maybe we are on a social media and everyone should search all clients, but maybe not. Maybe we are on another app and we shouldn't check all the clients. So it's a great tool to ask the business about the access control and to check together. So this tool, it's open source. It's for Spring application, and it goes through the code from the pom.xml file, and it can help find if there is the right annotation on the controller, and we check if we have the pre-authorized annotation. There are two other ways to secure the controllers, and they are also in the tools. I didn't put them here because it was in the same example, but it's a great way to check the controllers. And if you have like dev teams, or if you are in dev teams, you can try this tool and check if the access control are the right ones. And for endpoints without authentication, we write it explicitly in the team. So it's clear. It should be that way. And it's not the only framework. Obviously, it's not the only framework with issues in access control. There are many frameworks used by all developers, and the flows depend on the framework. So, for example, with API platform and with Symfony, when you write a new resource and you expose it, all the CRUD, so all the action available on this resource are directly available publicly. And if the developer doesn't put like an access control, by default, they are accessible. So, in my company, we also work a lot with API platforms. So we also created a tool that check the access control on that kind of applications. So we also created some tools with other languages that we use at Theodo. But maybe if you don't use those languages, there are tools that exist, and you can try them. You can try on your team's applications. We have also worked like on other categories, because we don't have like only the broken access control flow, unfortunately, in our apps. So, for example, with XSS, we saw, I don't know if some of you went to the previous talk, but we talked about dangerously set inner HTML, which is like the bypass for encoding in front end languages like React or Vue, and it can lead to XSS, obviously. So we added this tool, and now we have a linter rule for all the developers to avoid making this mistake and bypassing the rule. So it's really useful for that kind of projects. There are many other well-known tools and really useful, and so I've created an awesome security automation repository on GitHub. It's still in progress. There are new tools every day. So if you know tools and you want to contribute to this project and share your tools, I'll be really happy about it. You can also check the tools and use them in your projects. So takeaways. First takeaway, we must automate, and there are already great, sometimes free, sometimes not free, but there are free solutions also on the internet. Check them and use them in your project. Second takeaway, to find the flows, we need every actor working on the project. We need to be together from time to time and to think about what it means to be secure, and to think about the application. What are the best way to avoid security flows? And when we have flows, we must analyze them, analyze the root causes to avoid them, be there again after we fixed them. Many times I've seen the same flow appear on projects because nothing changed after the first flow was fixed. So it's really important to think about how we can avoid the same flow appearing again on the project. Thank you very much for your attention. Please give me your feedbacks about this presentation. You can also give me your tools, what you use, and what are the best flows you fixed with long-term fixes. There is so my colleague was talking before, but there is also a newsletter we write. It's in French, so if there are French-speaking people, you can check it. And also, if we have like many English people interested, we might translate it. We are writing a book that will go out in fall 2024. And if you want to get my slides, you can go there and have all the information. And I can take some questions. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So any questions? Yes.
How would your solutions for automating like code review effectively stand up against something like Fortify 360, Fortify in general? Like if somebody's using that as part of their secure development lifecycle, why would using something like this be better than using something like that?
So there is no, like, I don't know if it's the best solution. It might, there might be a better solution, obviously. It really depends on the teams, on the language they use, on what, like, kind of defaults they have most of the time. So I don't know, maybe there is a better solution. And I haven't used like all the solutions that exist, and there are many solutions now on the web and on other things. Yeah.
So this is not like a question, maybe like, have you thought about it? So a lot of coding is done on text editors like VS Code or something, and then right now there's a lot of AI tools helping coders. So maybe you guys could consider building like an AI tool that can be installed alongside code editors, such that when the developers are writing the code and they are writing a line of code that's going to introduce a vulnerability in the whole project, the tool will be like, oops, you have just written a line of code that's going to cause a vulnerability, and this is like suggested maybe
how to fix it and a better way to write
like
it.
Another form of automation on the spot.
Yeah, it's a great thing. There is, for example, like GitHub Copilot, which helps write code, but not always secure code.
Yeah.
But you can like overwrite the instruction you give to this tool, and then you can ask for better code, like secure code. So it can be a great thing. We also added an extension to VS Code to recommend standards, like for example OWASP standards in documentation when it's linked to what the developer is writing. So yeah, but I think that it could still be improved. So yeah, it's a great thing. I think it's. I need to find it again. Jinx, maybe.
Okay.
Let me check and yeah. Another question. Oh yeah.
Thank you. I'm interested in how you do something like SendGraph across multiple teams. Like, how does it scale? Do you have a centralized team that manage the?
It's a great question. So all the teams, they don't use the same tool, so we can't really use SendGraph with all our applications. So we don't really have a centralized platform for the moment. And so it could be great, for example, but for the moment, like in the project I'm working on, we're using SonarCube, and we have a centralized platform, but it's just for maybe like 20 teams, so just part of the company. For the moment, I don't have the solution to have all those tools in the same place.
I'm afraid that's got to be the last question.
Yeah. Thank you very much.